We'll start with our witness, our very valued Procurement Ombudsman. Welcome back to OGO. We appreciate you coming on relatively short notice. We look forward to hearing from you. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you. So I'd like to begin by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is the traditional unceded territory of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe people. Je remercie le président et les membres du comité.
Thank you, Chair and members of the committee, for inviting me here today. My name is Alexander Ziglich, and I appreciate the opportunity to appear again before this committee to shed a light on the findings of my office's recent report on procurement practices of contracts awarded to McKinsey & Company.
Mercereau, Director of Inquiries, Quality Assurance, and Risk Management. Mon bureau est indépendant des autres.
My office is independent of other federal organizations, including Public Service and Procurement Canada. I submit an annual report to the Minister of Public Services and Procurement, but the Minister has no influence over the results of my reviews or reports, and all my activities are conducted at arm's length from PSPC and other federal organizations.
Independent organization, my legislative mandate includes the review of procurement practices of federal departments to assess fairness, openness, and transparency and consistency with laws, policies, and guidelines, which is what we're here to discuss today. On February 3rd, 2023, the Minister of Public Services and Procurement requested that I conduct a review looking into contracts awarded to McKinsey & Company. Once my office was able to establish reasonable grounds as per our regulatory requirements, the review was launched on March 16, 2023. As per our legislative deadline, my office completed the review of McKinsey contracts on March 15, 2024, and the report was published on our website on April 15, 2024. My office examined the procurement files of 32 McKinsey contracts and one National Master Standing Offer, or NMSO, issued to McKinsey through competitive and non-competitive procurement processes to assess their fairness, openness, and transparency and their compliance with legislation, regulation, policy, and procedural requirements. PSPC was the contracting department for 23 contracts and the National Master Standing Offer. The review did not include contracts awarded by federal organizations that are not in my mandate, for example, contracts awarded to McKinsey by Crown corporations. With regards to competitive procurement practices leading to the award of contracts, my office identified instances where procurement strategies were changed to allow for McKinsey's participation in the procurement process, creating a perception of favoritism towards McKinsey. We also observed deficiencies related to bid evaluations in multiple files, including missing or incomplete documentation, failure to conduct evaluations as per planned approach, and the inappropriate reevaluation of bids, leading to McKinsey being deemed the only compliant bid. My office also identified shortfalls related to personal security clearances, including lack of documentation to show that security clearances of proposed resources were verified before they were authorized to work, or to confirm that contracts were sent to PSPC's contract security program when required. With regards to non-competitive procurement practices leading to the award of contracts, my review found that the sole source justification used by PSPC to establish the McKinsey Benchmarking Services NMSO did not contain the required information needed to justify this sole source standing offer. 19 contracts known as call-ups with a total value of almost $49 million were issued to McKinsey without competition against this standing offer. We also found that the vast majority of call-ups issued against the McKinsey Benchmarking Services NMSO were void of any description of the specific work to be carried out by McKinsey and, by extension, proper PSPC oversight. In these files, there was no evidence on file that a statement of work had been developed in advance of determining the procurement strategy or contacting McKinsey with the requirement. In these cases, it was impossible for my office to determine the extent to which McKinsey defined the requirement for these departments, which is a serious threat to the fairness of the procurement process. All call-ups issued against the McKinsey Benchmarking Services NMSO were non-competitive. The majority of these call-ups also lacked sole source justifications. Sole source justifications were never sought by PSPC in its capacity as the contracting department. In total, 18 of the 19 competitive call-ups were awarded by PSPC in the absence of justification on file. We also noted conflicting information regarding the use of McKinsey benchmarking services NMSO for call-ups with security requirements. My office also examined practices for issuing contract amendments and task authorizations for McKinsey. Overall, contract amendments were appropriate and were in line with policy and guidelines, but several issues were noted, including an instance where the contract amendment was not on file, an instance where the contract amendment was not issued prior to contract expiry, and an instance where the call-up was amended to increase the value by nearly $2 million without a clear description of the changes to the scope of work. We also examined practices related to disclosure of contract awards. In most instances, necessary disclosures were made on the proactive disclosure website. However, we noted issues with respect to the accuracy of information. In total, there were 5 recommendations made by my office, which were all accepted by the implicated departments. It should also be noted that PSPC accepted most of the findings in the report, but took issue with some observations. I would be pleased to discuss all of these matters with you. Je vous remercie de votre attention.
Thanks for your attention. I would be pleased to answer any questions you may have.